Live from Wild Wing Cafe in Cool Springs, this is Sports Source on WilliamsonSource.com. Presented by Dailies and Twice Daily. Win $500 gas weekly with the Coca-Cola Word of the Week. And by Jack Yakubian Jewelers in downtown Franklin. A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs. Bob Parks Realty. Franklin Skin and Laser. Push Pedal Pull in Brentwood. And Wild Wing Cafe.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nick Perron-Chappé with Williamson Source, and we are coming to you live from Wild Wing Cafe in Cool Springs, and we are all pumped up to do our very first one-hour live webcast sports show called Sports Source, guys, and we are excited here, certainly, for sure. We got a great crowd on hand here at Wild Wing Cafe, and certainly encourage you guys to join in on the conversation. We've got some great featured guests, so you can join us on social media. We'll tell you how to do that, and we'll tell you about our guests in just a moment. But first, let me tell you about the incredible lunch that they have here at Wild Wing Cafe. Take a look at this. It's all-you-can-eat wings. It's a wing bar that's completely set up here for $10.99. They do this every Monday through Friday from 11 to 2 o'clock. It's pretty incredible. They have 6 different wing flavors here. They've got soup and sides as well, so you can come in here, enjoy a great lunch, and talk sports at the same time. Our featured guest this afternoon is going to be former Tennessee Titans All-Pro tackle Brad Hopkins. He's got a brand new sports show that he's starting up in a few days. He's going to talk about that. Of course, we'll talk about the big Titans win over the Oakland Raiders yesterday. And we'll, of course, talk some Vols Vandy and college football, SEC football as well. But Brad is not our only guest. We also have other guests here as well. And right now I want to introduce my co-host, Amber Pennycuff, who is out here in the audience, and she's going to tell us about the other guests that we have. Hey, Amber.
Hey, Nick. Thank you so much. Yes, we are very excited for our first show. We have Ravenwood's football coach, Will Hester, and 3 of his players. And then we have the nationally recognized Franklin High School cheerleaders coming up. But let's take it over to Brad and Nick.
All right, thank you so much. Well, we also want to encourage you guys, as I mentioned, you can join in on the conversation on our social media pages as well. You can do that 2 ways. We are on Twitter at WilliamSRC. That's at WilliamSRC. And then you can also join us on Facebook as well. By the way, the hashtag is SportsSource. Hashtag SportsSource. And Facebook.com /Williamson Source. You can join us on that. And again, feel free to ask any questions for our guests. Our first guest has played 13 seasons in the NFL, all with one team, surprisingly. You don't hear about that these days. He played with the Houston Oilers, Tennessee Titans. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. We're talking with Brad Hopkins. Good to see you, Brad.
Thanks for having me out, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, as you guys know, Brad is an incredible athlete. Great talk show host as well, and you got a new show coming up here, which we'll talk about. But this guy can dance too. I mean, okay, talk about this. What'd you do? The cha-cha or something? This is dancing with the Nashville Stars benefit for Feed America.
Feed America First was the benefactor. Obviously, it was a great location out there at the factory. There was a number of area celebrities in the media and things of that nature. We all actually had about 6 weeks to learn a dance, which were pretty structured dances, cha-cha, salsa, stuff like that. And you had to pretty much get the routine down and get the most votes. Every dollar equaled a vote, and the most votes, obviously, everything went to a great cause, which was, feeding some of those families in the Middle Tennessee area here that just really, especially when you're talking about Thanksgiving right down the street, they're really hurting right now. So the benefit actually raised, I think we were able to feed like 800,000 families or something like that this upcoming season. So it was great turnout, great event. So, and thank you for your support, those that came.
That's awesome. And of course, you've been through 2 days, 3 days. How tough was it to go through this routine and learning these dances? I hear it's a heck of a workout.
Yeah, that's actually a good question because I'd been away from that kind of, I've been doing, working out and trying to stay in shape a little bit, a little cardio and some light weightlifting, but when you're doing all these dances that you're activating muscles you've never used before, man. I mean, I tell you what, it did take me back to my playing days because I hadn't been that sore in years. So the Motrin, the pain meds, they definitely they got the dust knocked off of them after I started doing those practices for the event.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your new sports show. Of course, you used to be with 102.5 The Game with all the guys over there, but now you're starting something different on Sirius XM. Tell the folks here what you're starting.
Well, actually, I'm still at the station, just doing things in limited capacity. Derek Mason and I, we host a post-game show after all the Titans games, and on some of the pregame coverage before the away games too. So I'm still involved with the station here, doing endorsements and stuff like that. But what I'm doing now is I have the opportunity on the 29th, which is Black Friday, ironically, from 10 to 2 o'clock, myself and James Lofton will be hosting Sirius XM's NFL Channel 88. So we'll be taking you through all the games that you saw on that Thanksgiving Day, the 3 games that we'll see, those games. And, of course, we'll talk about some of the games that we already have watched this weekend, plus, a precursor to Week 14. So it's a great opportunity for me. It's a great opportunity to just kind of, get the brand out there about Nashville, So I'm excited.
Was the broadcasting transition pretty easy for you after football?
I kind of been thinking in the back of my head while I was playing that this is something I wanted to do. So I actually kind of had my agent enroll me in some communication classes and schools and broadcasting camps and things like that, so that way I could kind of be a little more acclimated when the time was ready for me to come jump into this arena. So I've been kind of anticipating it, practicing, just kind of listening to the guys and how they broadcast and what they broadcast about. So I had some interest there. It just really kind of maximizing opportunities because, like I know in this business, man, there's so many people fighting for just so many limited positions that you really got to be ready.
Sure. Well, as we talk about football a little bit, I thought it was interesting. You grew up in Illinois, right?
Yeah.
Two-sport athlete. Yeah. You played basketball. You played football, of course. Do you like basketball? Are you better at basketball than football? Because I know there are a lot of football players that say, I'm actually better in another sport.
I remember I had some people in high school came up to me. This is years after I had graduated. As a matter of fact, I think I already graduated college. And they said, you know what, being honest, I didn't even know you played football in high school. This was just the reality of me being, in my area, basketball was king. And, I was blessed enough to be a good enough athlete to participate in both sports, but basketball was my passion. That was one of those things when you look at guys that really commit themselves and invest all that they are, man. That's what I was really ready to commit myself to, which is basketball. The opportunity came to play some football, and there are athletes out there that understand the situation I'm talking about. They're blessed to be good in more than just one sport, so you do have choices to make, especially when it gets to as an important level like college. But I just took advantage of the opportunity that was given to me. My dad and I talked about it. My mom and I talked about it, and things seemed to have worked out.
You, of course, had a great career, 13 years with one team, as I mentioned. You blocked for Eddie George. You protected Stephen McNair. You went to the Super Bowl. Is there one experience, Brad, that kind of sticks out for you in your 13 seasons as a pro?
You know what? Most of the experience that I would recall upon are like experiences that you would have in your own day-to-day jobs. It's the relationships. It's the conversations. It's how you view one another in the locker room. There's a lot that's out there on the platform, the stage, which is the game itself, and that's where you guys come in. But there's so much behind the scenes that happens that, to kind of tap into those memories, man, I get kind of emotional up here. You don't want me crying up here, so I'm...
Oh, go for it. Yeah, I think we'd love to see you cry a little bit. Big grown man.
But there's always the power struggle. It's like here you've got a conglomerate of men who've come from all walks of life, all parts of the country, and your goal is to win football games. Your goal is to be as cohesive with the guy next to you as you possibly can within a shorter period of time to do something that very few people on this planet can ever do. So there's a challenge in that, trying to basically understand your skills and get better at what you do, but then you also got to work well with others. And those skills obviously don't leave you when you leave football, but you really never really think about how much you're involved in that capacity until you actually walk away from the game.
Interesting. All right, so when I booked you last week, I was thinking, okay, I'm watching the Raiders and watching the Titans yesterday. I'm thinking, if they lose this game, we may not talk about the Titans at all, period. But they found a way to win yesterday. It wasn't pretty, Brad, but they came out with a win.
Yeah, but you know what? You say if they hadn't won that we wouldn't talk about it. That's when we talk about it the most, and you know it. So let's not paint that picture. You've been doing sports for 12 years. You know how this thing works. People they really want to hear about the burning building more so than the soldier giving his money away to some other cause. But still, looking at that game, it wasn't a pretty game because you didn't see a bunch of high offensive performances. You didn't see just the guys that you're normally used to seeing make plays, they weren't making plays yesterday. Ryan Fitzpatrick himself was making plays yesterday. It seemed like he was doing it by himself, but it's really about getting a win. It's really about being in a situation as adverse as it was for the Titans, being able to focus enough to come from behind on the road and get a win, especially when it's so important for both teams to do that. Both teams sitting at 4-6, just outside of the playoff hunt. Now the Titans with the head-to-head against Pittsburgh, now sitting at 6th seed, for the playoffs right now. 2 weeks ago, we'd have been, what were we saying? I mean, the craziness that was around this team, the conversation around this team after the Indianapolis loss. Now when you look at the board and you see the Titans are sitting in the 6th spot right now, it has some Titans fans smiling.
I mean, the games they've lost, they haven't lost by much, for sure. They're certainly in the games. It's just they haven't been able to pull them out until yesterday. Chris Johnson is an enigma for many reasons. He's such a talented running back, great speed, and of course he gets out in the open, he can go. Why can he not be more productive out there as an offensive lineman, former offensive lineman? What's going on? Why is Chris Johnson not more productive for the Tennessee Titans?
Well, first you have to understand that in the running back position, that is a position on the offense, okay? It's just part of it. There are so many other things that come into play. Receivers have to block. Offensive linemen have to block. We've talked about and heard from their veterans on that team that there are so many mental issues that are still taking place on this offense that's already halfway through the season. So it's not just Chris Johnson that is not just getting the job done. Is he a part of it? Of course. But you got to also look at how in the capacities that they use Chris Johnson. It seems like if you're able to get the ball in the hands of a playmaker away from all the traffic, he seems to do more and better. Maybe some play calling would help that situation, but you never know until you get in those situations. Ultimately, I think players win and lose ball games, but coaches do help by helping put them in situations that would give them easier victories. So I think as you start to see this thing, develop and mold and take a shape of its own, because the injury to Jake Locker did, it set the Titans back. Having to make those adjustments midstream, I think that once they start to get settled, you'll start to see which direction they're going to start using Chris. Is it more of a running capacity? Is it more play action? Are they going to start using more Sean Green in first and second down situations when it's more manageable yards? I think that when you start to see their comfort zone start to develop, we'll see just exactly what Chris Johnson means to this offense.
You mentioned Jake Locker, and he's really had a terrible run of bad luck with all of his injuries. Is he the future for the Tennessee Titans?
See, here's where cost comes into play because, he's due a bonus of $14 million or something like that. And I think that's I've been hearing the conversation saying that that's top 10 quarterback money. Well, if that's the way you're gauging quarterbacks, I don't think that anyone at this point would say that there's a body of work that could say that Jake is a top 10 quarterback. So the $14 million is kind of ridiculous right now. Do I think that when healthy, this guy is a franchise quarterback? Absolutely. I think that he's a born leader. I think that the players buy into his abilities. They see what his skill set is and how it works for that offense, and they're excited about that. The caveat is what? I mean, the guy can't seem to stay healthy, but it's through no issue of his own. These are freak accidents that are happening, hip injuries. When's the last time you heard of a pro athlete in any sport getting a hip injury or the Liz Frank injury? I mean, these are things that just don't normally happen. This is not a hamstring or something that he's not doing or doing in preparation that's causing him to be injured. It's just like freak things. So, I mean, if you can control the altitude of the team by not having your quarterback be in crazy situations, that would help him be safe. But that's not the way that they're using Jake Locker, and that's not the way anyone I think that supports the Titans would want. You want to let Jake Locker be Jake Locker, but sometimes that puts him in subsequent danger. So it's just one of those things. I do think he's the future of this franchise, and I do think that the things that you start to see him being a part of, the freak accidents, will come. They'll start settling down once the team starts settling down. So I don't think that there are any really other options other than starting all over again, and you're going to have the same situation with a young guy again. So, or how about this? You go get an older guy. Okay, well, age is going to be a factor in that case at some point in time, too. So you might as well just keep what you got.
And they certainly could have kept Matt Hasselbeck if that was what they were thinking.
Well, see, Matt Hasselbeck wasn't even think about it. He was 13 years when he came in and started mentoring Jake Locker. All right, well, so he wasn't going to be around that much longer. You'd want, I think, at this point in time, a franchise quarterback that's going to be around for the next 7, 8, 9 years. That's Jake Locker.
Is the criticism fair of Mike Munchak?
I think that those that understand the constructs of a game and they understand that a head coach delegates responsibility, I think when you truly understand what his role is on this team, no, you can't say that. he has influence on the guys that have influence on the guys that are supposed to win and lose ball games. That's his job. I think in doing what his job description is, he is doing just that. He's gotten pieces in that franchise that can produce wins, whether it's injury or, just a lack of productivity on some guys that have been, used to being the go-to guys. Number 18, I'm just saying.
Let's see, who's 18? KB.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you expect things from guys like that. I'm not putting it all on his shoulders. I'm just saying those are things that you count on in the beginning of the season that, just sometimes don't come to fruition. It just doesn't happen. So I just look at the job that Mike is doing. Given the situation, what head coach would have done anything differently in those same situations?
We're talking with former Titans All-Pro tackle Brad Hopkins, and we're going to continue our conversation with Brad. We're going to change gears a little bit, talk a little SEC football, talk a little bit about the Vols and Vandy and what happened there. I see a lot of orange out here in the audience. Have you noticed? They're still proud to wear their orange. Need some Vandy fans, though. Speak up. We'll continue our conversation with Brad. Right now, though, we want to thank many of our great sponsors that are making this show possible. One of them is Push Pedal Pull. And right now, let's toss it over to Amber out there in the audience with a special guest. Amber.
Thanks, Nick. We're here with Lynn from Push Pedal Pull. Who is Push Pedal Pull?
We are a high-end fitness equipment store for residents. So for everyone around the holidays who's about to eat a bunch, we can help them with their cardiovascular health, flexibility, and strength. So we're a high-end fitness store with start to finish. So come in, we can start you on a program, we can help you all the way to your health. If you're healthy now, we can start you off at a higher level and take you all the way to your goals.
And what should a customer be looking for in a workout exactly?
There's those three areas that we talked about. It's strength, flexibility, and cardiovascular. We represent Precor, which is the best cardiovascular manufacturer in the world. We love them. We have Inspire Functional Gyms, which is great for women. We have to do some strength to keep our bone density up. So we've got the full gamut. We've got everything from a stretch band to the full functional trainer. So we want to talk to our customers, find out what their lifestyle is like, what their goals are, what their limitations are, and then we like to fit them with the products that's going to reach their goals for them.
And I know during the holidays, one meal leads to another. And so what are those specials that you have on the holidays right now?
Well, right now, we're all year long, we offer 12 months, 0% financing. Through the holidays, we're going to do 36 months. So we're very excited. We're really trying to just move out all of the obstacles for people to be healthy. So finances are important, but we'd like to address that head on. So we've got great sale prices. We've got some old floor models that need to go, so we'll make great deals on that. And financing is also available. So we're real excited about the holidays. Portion, exercise, you can get through them just as happy as everybody else.
Exactly. And how can customers contact Push Pedal and Pull?
We're located in Brentwood. We have a website at pushpedalpull.com. You can find us at the store locator, so you can get really specific about what we do in our location. We're also Facebook, so please like us on Facebook, Push Pedal Pull /Brentwood store. We're trying to beat the other stores. We have an inside competition, so we'd really appreciate your likes. We offer the sales are on there, as well as some blogs and some information to get through the holidays.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and go like them on Facebook. They need more likes. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Thank you.
Toss it back to you, Nick.
All right, Amber and Lynn, thank you so much. And of course, Push Pedal Pull, just one of many sponsors that we want to thank. Let's take a look at all the other sponsors right now that we want to thank for making Sports Source happen.
You're watching Sports Source on WilliamsonSource.com. Presented by Dailies and Twice Daily. Win $500 gas weekly with the Coca-Cola Word of the Week. And by Jack Jacobian Jewelers in downtown Franklin. A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs. Bob Parks Realty. Franklin Skin and Laser. Push Pedal Pull in Brentwood. And Wild Wing Cafe.
All right, again, we want to thank all of those great sponsors for making this happen. Of course, we are Wild Wing Cafe here in Cool Springs, bringing this show to you live on a webcast on WilliamsonSource.com. Want to thank Wild Wing Cafe as well for hosting us here. We're talking with Brad Hopkins, continuing our conversation, talking about the Titans. Before we leave the Titans, Brad, I want to ask you a little bit about the new ownership now with Tommy Smith taking over, the son-in-law of the late Bud Adams. Do you foresee any changes happening here with Tommy Smith taking over?
That's actually a pretty good question, because here's a guy that not a lot of people saw. The first mention that we hear of Tommy Smith was when then owner Bud Adams was basically having him be responsible for the operations of the franchise here in Nashville, basically making him move up here from Houston to kind of run the team. And kind of drug his feet a little bit. That was the MO that we kind of got around the franchise. It wasn't one that really wanted to be involved. But he was one of those people in the locker room that you would see, especially when you're talking about a front office person that, we didn't see a whole bunch of Bud Adams, just being honest, when we were playing in Houston, and we certainly didn't see him when we were here in Nashville. But Tommy Smith was a presence. He was a guy that walked around the locker room, had conversation with the players, kind of wanted to try and get to know him. Now, it wasn't necessarily well received because he wasn't the owner per se. He was the owner's son-in-law. But still, there was the attempt. So with that being said, I don't know, maybe in the back of his mind, with this thing sorted out as it is, he doesn't want to take a more active role and see things, more actively being done on the franchise. Maybe he, takes more of a visual role here in Nashville to kind of bind the ownership with the community itself. Maybe we see him take that more of an approach, having listened to some of the grumblings from people here that say, the team would be better if, in fact, it had a platform that raised it up, kind of like an ownership that was here local, that might, pique some more interest and keep the fans more interested because they understand exactly, what some of the grumblings are from the people around them. So I think that Tommy might take a different approach because it hasn't, we've seen it being pretty stale here for the last decade or so. So I think when you're talking about change, maybe Tommy's the guy to bring it about.
All right, and of course the Titans play the Colts. It's going to be huge. And like you said, they're just, a game out of the division race there, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, we were talking about that during the commercial that basically the Titans with the opportunity right now at 5-6, the sixth team in the playoffs. If they were to actually beat the Colts on Sunday, they're pull themselves within a game. The Colts would then be 7-7. The Titans would be 6-6. Within a game of controlling your own destiny. And we all know what it takes to basically get into the playoffs as a guarantee is to win the division. And if you're sitting at that point in time, because we see where the Indianapolis Colts are going right now, we see where the Houston Texans are going right now, and if the Titans can put together, a couple of back-to-back wins, especially on the road like that, that kind of momentum is the momentum that will take you deep into the playoffs.
That would be huge. Hard to believe all the AFC teams still alive right now in the playoff hunt. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little college football now. The Vols taking on Vanderbilt. Quite a finish with Robinette with that fake jump pass running in with about 20 seconds left for Vanderbilt. When was the last time Vanderbilt was 7-4 and the Vols were 4-7? It's been a long time.
Shoot, the better question is when's the last time Vanderbilt beat UT in Knoxville?
Yeah. And also beat Florida in the same year.
Jeez, well, we don't want to talk about Florida. But anyway.
No, we're going to talk about Florida in a minute, but let's talk about Vols and Vandy right
Yeah, because obviously that's the one that's closest to the chest here in the community. And when you look at James Franklin and what he went into that ball game saying, a lot of respect for Josh Dobbs, a lot of respect for the potential that was that team. It was a struggling team, and I think that James ultimately knew that. And the back and forth that was that whole game, I think a very low-scoring affair, especially in the first half. A couple of plays, penalties, turnovers were obviously an issue for both teams. I don't think that Vanderbilt had turned the ball over so much in I don't know how many games, but still UT wasn't able to capitalize. It was the power struggle, back and forth. I saw at some point in time glimpses of brilliance from both teams. I thought Josh Dobbs looks phenomenal in some points where he's able to run the football and get first downs, and then he looks like he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, with the when the throw needs to be accurate, And on the flip side, I wasn't quite sure or settled on the two quarterback tandem of Carter Samuels and the other kid there, the Robinette, back and forth. But either way, both guys were productive, and at the end, it was Robinette who does the jump pass and gets A.J. Johnson in the air to be able to run into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. So. A lot of drama, a lot of activity, just what people wanted, just not what Vol Nation wanted. But
what did you think about the 4th and 19 fake field goal try by UT? 4th and 19.
If it works, he's a genius, right? And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. So, but in my opinion, that's how greatness is established. You got to go out there on a limb, man. Because you never know what'll happen.
Especially when you're 4-6.
Right, especially when you're at 4-6, you're trying to be a spark plug for your team. I used to love it when coaches that I had would take chances like that, would think outside of the box and just kind of bunk conventional wisdom, and just do something that they thought was going to be emotionally charging for the team. I thought that was something that could have been an unbelievable play, but sometimes when it doesn't work, the egg's on your face. That's what happened.
Incredible. By the way, if you guys have any questions out there in the audience, we're going to be asking some of the questions. Do you have someone, Amber? All right.
I do.
Why don't we go right now to Amber? And we've got a question here for Brad talking about, what, the Vols and Vandy? Amber?
Okay, over here we have Avery, and he wants to ask Brad a question.
I was wondering what your opinion of the Iron Bowl and how it will play out.
Auburn and Alabama.
When's the last time that the Iron Bowl featured two teams that were in the top 10? And obviously, I mean, it's such a weird year for Auburn because they should have lost to Georgia last week. You know that. But still, they were in the ballgame, so you can't say that what they didn't do, they didn't deserve to be the number 6 team in the country going up against Alabama, who hasn't lost in what, since 1970? Well, I don't know when the last time. But still, you're talking about, you know, the power struggle for the state of Alabama. What I like this year from Auburn is that they're doing it without the services of one guy. You know what I mean? We all know that back in 2010 when Auburn, you know, ran the tables and were national champions, that was because of the exploits of one phenomenal football player. Now the wealth has been spread out, man. You start to see a lot of diversity. You start to see a strong rushing attack, a smart quarterback, and you start to see a team that's rallying around a new head coach, mind you. That, in my opinion, is probably the spark plug right there. It's like, hey, look, you know, we like the direction that this guy has got the team going. We're going to really try and do our best for him, and you start to see the results in how they play competitively week in and week out. Are they scared of Alabama? Absolutely not. This is going to be the best Iron Bowl you've seen in decades.
I'm actually going out on a limb right now on Sports Source, right here on WilliamsonSource.com. Auburn beats Alabama. Yes, Auburn beats Alabama. Here come the Alabama haters.
I like that.
Any more questions, Amber, out there?
I think we're good here, Nick.
No? Let's talk about Will Muschamp. Should he return as the Gators head coach after losing? Okay, I know he had a lot of injuries this year, but they lost to Georgia Southern, Brad.
I understand that. You know, you're talking about a team that's an FBS team. But you know what? The sun shines on a dog's butt every now and then. That's just about as simple as you can put it. And when you have a team that has struggled so much with momentum, they've struggled so much with injuries, they struggle so much with what they're used to be doing well, you know, it's not a surprise that they kind of just left the game mentally. That wasn't a Florida Gators team that you would normally see focused and ready to play, you know, getting manhandled by a Georgia State team that didn't throw a pass in the game, Nick. Let me repeat that. That didn't throw a pass in the game. So
I thought that was a typo when I first saw that as a stat. I really did.
You've got to acknowledge the uniqueness of that situation right there, to win a ball game in the swamp like that. So, you know, just given the whole atmosphere in its entirety, you know, the injuries to their top quarterbacks, the injuries that they had on defense, you know, and just the things that they had to contend with, some tough losses. They were competitive early, but you could just see the life being sucked out of them every time that other teams that they're used to beating were more competitive, and they were getting their heads caved in by teams that they're used to being competitive against.
All right, well, we are going to wrap up our conversation here with Brad Hopkins. Again, we got many more guests coming up. One last thing before you go. Best head football coach in the country in college football is?
Well, I can't say Tim Beckman. That'd be the University of Illinois football coach. They got their first conference victory in 29 tries this weekend.
Do you want me to ask that question again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that, you know, that deserve that billing. I could say that, you know what, if you talk about changing the culture, if you talk about, you know, resurrecting a program that really has always been obscure, why wouldn't you say James Franklin, especially when you talk about vacancies in some top programs like USC at one point in time, maybe Ed Orgeron's the guy, I don't know. Texas, remember Mac Brown's job was supposed to be in question. Whose name came up first? James Franklin's. I know there are some pretty proven coaches out there that are pretty solidified. Mr. Shaw up there in Stanford is doing a heck of a job. But you got to say that, you know, James Franklin's name being mentioned among some of the top jobs. Why not have Vanderbilt be one of the best head coaches in college football today?
Will he go? Will he stay? I mean, is he lured at all?
Yeah, I think that Ed Orgeron, what he's done with the franchise there, I think given what they do against UCLA, that might make the boosters feel better about him being the hire, you know, taking off the interim tag. So the players love playing for him. They'll admit it, and they're going to go to the wall for him. He's going to, you know, scream from the mountaintops that I deserve the job. So maybe he's secured that. Mac Brown was doing some things different late in that season for Texas, you know, getting some quality wins later on, playing competitive against teams that were leading the divisions. But, I don't know, maybe they've decided to move on early on. They've already got plans working. I think that James Franklin, for what he's done here and what he can continue to do here, he can cement a legacy. And if that's what his goal is, then I can see him staying. I don't see James Franklin leaving for another college job. If James Franklin leaves Vanderbilt, I see him maybe chasing some exploits in the pros, just to test the waters, kind of like what Nick Saban did, kind of like what Jimmy Johnson did, some quality coaches. It works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe he's one of those guys that can make it work.
All right, Brad Hopkins, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming. How about a big round of applause for Brad Hopkins here? Congratulations on the new show, by the way, SiriusXM. How can people find it? How can they find you? More about you.
Well, this is our pilot, sort of. If I do great, then you'll probably hear from me in the future more often. If I don't, I'll be right here at Wild Wing Cafe. But I'll be on SiriusXM. That's a great thing. Hold on a second. Not dissing the place. I'll be on SiriusXM, channel 88. That's the NFL channel. Myself and James Lofton will be doing the 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock block. So tune in and listen if you got SiriusXM. If you don't, ask for it for Christmas and get it early.
There you go. All right, Brad. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Right now, let's go ahead and thank all of our great sponsors, including Wild Wing Cafe. Right now, let's take a look at all these great sponsors making this show happen today.
You're watching Sports Source on WilliamsonSource.com. Presented by Dailies and Twice Daily. Win $500 gas weekly with the Coca-Cola Word of the Week. And by Jack Jacobian Jewelers in downtown Franklin. A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs. Bob Parks Realty. Franklin Skin and Laser. Push Pedal Pull in Brentwood. And Wild Wing Cafe.
All right. Well, again, we do want to thank those great sponsors. Again, we are live at Wild Wing Cafe in Cool Springs. They have a all-you-can-eat wing bar, 6 different sauces out here, soup and sides. That's all for $10.99. They're open for lunch Monday through Friday with this all-you-can-eat wing bar from 11 to 2. We're going to be out here every Monday. It's our debut show of Sports Source. And if you have any questions, you can always ask those questions on Twitter at WilliamsonSRC, hashtag Sports Source, or you can go to Facebook, facebook.com/WilliamsonSource. Coming up, we're talking to Ravenwood head football coach Will Hester, but right now we've got a treat here. Nancy Williams with the Heritage Foundation and the Downtown Franklin Association joining me up here because there are a lot of exciting things happening in downtown Franklin this week as we approach Thanksgiving and head into the full-blown holiday season. This is the time when you get really busy, right, Nancy?
That's right. There's a ton of things coming up in historic downtown Franklin starting this weekend and going all the way through the holiday season.
What are we talking about here? I know Saturday's a big day because we have the Small Business Saturday, and that's so important because you want to go Christmas shopping, you want to go to all the big stores, but you want to support the local stores that work so hard day in and day out.
That's right. And, the big box stores have Black Friday, and that's fun. Head out there and get the deals. But there is so much fun stuff going on in downtown Franklin. And I'm sure you've seen American Express ads all over the place. So if you have an American Express card, what you do is you go on their website and you register your card, and then they automatically give you at least $10 off when you start using it that day. And if you see their ads, they look so much like downtown Franklin. It just could be, the whole thing could just be shot right there. And it makes you feel great about supporting the small businesses in town and realizing how important you as a shopper or a diner or whatever are to them. So in appreciation for that, at least 30 of our merchants right around Main Street are offering some really great fun specials on Saturday.
Fantastic. Also, great kickoff to holiday season. You've got a lot of the tree lighting happening. The art scene is really kicking up as well. Tell us a little bit more about that.
All right. So then next week, we've got the art scene on December 6th. The official tree lighting is Thursday night, December 5th, 6 o'clock. And then the Franklin Christmas Parade, December 7th, that's Saturday. So that's just, 3 things next weekend. Then the weekend after that, on the 14th and 15th, we've got Dickens of a Christmas, where, we have people from the entire Southeast coming to enjoy that free Victorian festival in downtown Franklin.
Awesome. And how can people find out exactly what's happening in downtown Franklin? What are your social media pages, websites?
Well, the Williamson Source has been great about putting our stuff up there, but we're downtownfranklinTN.com, and we're also Downtown Franklin on Facebook, and a little bit of an abbreviation on Twitter, but if you just search Downtown Franklin TN, you will get right to us. And I mean, it's really more things than I could even mention. It's such a long list. But if I were planning my day, I think I'd start out like around John D. and Avec Moi, where they've got the mimosas flowing. And then later that day, there's free hot cider if you've made any purchase at Yarrow Acres or Honey's Vintage Sweets. And then a 10% discount for many, many stores if you show them a receipt from any of their neighbors. And isn't that a sweet way to get your shopping done?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. Nancy Williams with the Downtown Franklin Association Heritage Foundation. How about a big round of applause for Nancy, folks? Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy all the great shopping in downtown Franklin and all the holiday celebrations they have. They always do such an awesome job with all the great stores there in downtown Franklin. Up next, Coach Will Hester. Come on up here, Will. We'll get you on. But right now, let's take a look at some of the high school football action, playoff action that we had this past Friday. Amber Pennycuff has been covering all of those great games. She has this story, including the big game between CPA and Fairview.
The Lions certainly live up to the term King of the Jungle. CPA is 13-0, going undefeated, and will take on another home advantage this week against Lewis County. In last Friday's matchup, the Lions took a big 35-20 win over Fairview, who arrived to the field with one loss on its season record from yours truly, Lewis County. Over the course of the year, CPA has only allowed its opponents to score more than 16 points twice, including Fairview. 5 out of 13 games, teams have scored less than 10 points. These two teams will go head-to-head, both undefeated in the semifinals on Friday. The winner will advance to the Class 3A championship game. CPA fell to Milan in 2011 and 2012 in the semifinals of the playoffs, but have already taken care of the Bulldogs with a 24-7 victory earlier in the season. The Lions will be hungry for a win, and the undefeated record and high from a win over Fairview will grant CPA the confidence it needs for Friday night. For Williamson Source, Amber Pennycuff.
All right, again, we are coming to you live from one of our sponsors. You just heard from there, Wild Wing Cafe on Cool Springs, 545 Cool Springs Boulevard. We're right in the plaza, right next to TJ Maxx out here. It's a busy area. We've got a packed house. And we want the crowd to certainly get involved. We also have, by the way, the Franklin High School cheerleaders, nationally recognized. They just competed in the state tournament. They're going to be joining us here in just a few moments. But right now, I want to introduce to you the head football coach of the Ravenwood Raptors, Will Hester. Good to see you, Will.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for being here. Of course, you're kind of born and brought up in this area, and native of Williamson County, went to Brentwood High School, coached over at Brentwood. Your first season at Ravenwood, and you took a team that had been struggling, and you really turned them around to a 10-2 season, leading them into the playoffs. Kind of a whirlwind season for you, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't say enough about this year's senior class. They've been through 3 head coaches, me being the third one in their 4 years of high school, and how those 26 guys came together for a common cause and battled through a lot of adversity led us to where we got to.
How difficult was that when you took the job, and as you mentioned, 3 different head coaches, changing the mentality of the players, the program, to say, hey, we can win, we can be better than this? What did it take to get to that point?
Well, it all started back in January with the 5:30 a.m. workouts, and it was our goal as a coaching staff was to make the kids understand that we cared about them, because our philosophy is if they know that we care about them, then they'll care about what we know as far as football goes. So we tried to pour into their lives and get to know them as young men and coach them hard, and they responded very well to that.
Let's tackle the last game that you guys played. I know you probably don't want to talk about it, but you guys played a very tough Blackman team out of Murfreesboro. They kind of just jumped on you guys early, and it was one of those situations, I guess you felt like it was really tough to catch up, like you guys kind of dug yourselves into a hole.
Yeah, I mean, they're a very physical football team, and they took the opening kickoff, went right down rather easily and scored on us. Then we had a turnover on our first play of our beginning drive of the game. They took that in and scored. So we were down rather quickly, which kind of took us out of our game plan a little bit. You know, there were some things that they were doing defensively that we would have liked to have taken advantage of, but when you get in a hole that quickly, it makes it very difficult. And we felt like we were battling from behind the entire game.
And, of course, it doesn't help when you lose your starting quarterback, who's been a leader on this team, Avery Jankowski. In fact, Amber Pennycuff is down there with Avery, who's joining us here at Wild Wing Cafe. And, Avery, I know you suffered a really horrible concussion in the game early. And how difficult was that to know? First of all, you didn't really know what happened, right?
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, it was an unfortunate, thing that happened, but right now I don't really remember even putting my pads on for that game. So, like I said, it was kind of unfortunate, but, looking back on the season that we had and the things that we accomplished, I can't really be mad about it. It was just, I'm glad that we had the season we did, and, I'm okay. I'm not in a cast or anything, so, it really isn't that big of a deal. Like I said, it's a sad thing to go out, but, as long as we had the season we did, I'm satisfied.
You were telling us a little bit before we started that you don't remember anything, even the pregame festivities that happened. How long were you kind of blacked out?
Well, I don't remember from about 5 o'clock until leaving the hospital. I was blacked out apparently. We're not really sure, but I think the very first drive I was in the game is when I got hit. And then I came off to the sideline, and some of my players were telling me that I was asking them, who we were playing and what round of the playoffs we were in. So I was clearly out of it. But no one really knew what had happened to me. So I went back in and still played the game like a normal. But then, later in the game, I think it was pretty apparent that I was, not in my right state of mind. So I got taken out. And then, our other quarterbacks came in and did a great job. So, so right now I don't really remember from a pretty good time span. Hopefully, I'm waiting to get it back, but we're not sure if we're really going to get it back or not.
Wow, that's really scary. Thank you, Avery. And I know, Amber, you're going to talk to some of the other players there as well. Will, that's scary. I mean, did you know how bad it was when he got hit?
Well, it's hard to tell. You go back and look at the film. There were several occasions where it could have possibly occurred. But the conversations that you have with him on the sidelines and things of that nature, it became very apparent that he was having some struggles there, and it was definitely in his best interest not to return to the game.
So, all right, let's put that loss aside for a while and talk about the rest of the season, because it really was a great year. You guys beat your alma mater, Brentwood, barely. You beat Franklin, barely. You got through some games, but it showed a lot of character that you guys came through in the end and actually won those games.
Absolutely. I mean, we're a few points away from being a 5-5 team, and we ended up the season 10-2. So, it goes back to the character of those senior kids and how they've handled adversity their whole lives, and definitely since we've been there in January. And they gave us the opportunity to be in those close games, and then gave us the mental capacity to get over the hump in those close games. And we feel like that's definitely the difference in our season. It's just our way of handling adversity and our way of battling through. And we were down 11 points at one point in the Brentwood game. We were able to come back and win. And so we were in adverse situations all year, and the way we handled it, is a testament to the senior class.
Personally, was it just a little extra sweeter for you to beat Brentwood?
Oh, I would be lying if I didn't say yes, but absolutely. Anytime that, it's been several years since Ravenwood had the opportunity to beat them, and, the last couple of years have been very lopsided, and for these kids to wash that bad taste out of their mouth and win on their home field, and at that time clinch the district championship that night, it was a very big night for us.
Well, as you mentioned, you had great leadership on the team, and Amber's now standing by with a couple of those other leaders along with Avery. Amber?
Thanks, Nick. Well, we have Alex Lyons, Van Jefferson, and Avery Jankowski. Tell me about you guys' duo during the season. You had a little thing going on. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, building that chemistry in the summer, going out, every day, throwing balls and stuff like that. Coming into the season, I know we're going to have a big impact on our team. So, me and him being a dynamic duo like we are now, so it was a pretty good season for me and him.
And Alex, you had a huge impact in the Franklin game. Can you talk about your year, and especially being a senior?
I mean, we were really excited. We didn't have a really good pass winning games, but we worked really hard in the offseason because we want to make senior year special. So, and any district game was a close one. It got really hyped up, especially Franklin, because when we played them, they hadn't lost a game. So we went into that game knowing it would be very close. I don't know how close it really was, but we knew it would be very close. So we knew we needed difference makers, and we all played like it was our last ever game. So
That's awesome. And tell me about the future plans here. We've got senior. Where are you going to go after this year?
I'm not very sure, but I'm thinking University of Tennessee.
And we got junior. No decided plans yet?
Not right now. Still seeing my options right now, so I don't know.
That's great. And then senior, what do we have here?
I'm going to Tennessee, University of Tennessee.
There we go. All right, and back to you, Nick.
All right, Amber, thank you so much. Well, Coach, you just heard from a couple of your seniors. I know you're going to miss them a lot, but you do have Van coming back, who's a junior, and some other great players. What does next year's team look like for you?
We return a lot of our skilled guys on offense. Most of our receivers, both our leading rushers are returning, so we got to replace Avery at quarterback. So we've got a junior who will be a rising senior, and a sophomore will be a rising junior. We'll battle that out for us. We lose a couple of guys on the offensive line. So overall, I think we return about 7 guys on offense, and then about half the guys on defense. So it's going to be one of those years where if we can plug some guys in into key positions and come together as a football team, that we have an opportunity to be pretty decent.
I know the Ravenwood boosters are huge for you guys, and there's so much that the boosters do behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. And I know you want to probably give them a little bit of a shout out because they're always there every game, cooking out and being out there tailgating and raising money as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't run a 6A football program without the help of an organization to kind of back you up there. I mean, these are $100,000 or more budgets that we're dealing with, and it's like a big corporation, if you will. And, all of these parents have jobs on the side that they're the CEO of or they're the vice president of, and then they take time to come out and support this organization for their sons. And it's really unbelievable how they can take the time out of their busy schedule, which it is, and give so much to this program. The support that we had this year is amazing. The home crowd, the student section, it was really a great atmosphere for high school football, and hopefully we can kind of keep that snowball rolling downhill and turn it into an avalanche.
That sounds good. Finally, before we let you go, any thoughts on the playoffs that are happening now? You probably don't really get a chance to watch other football teams like CPA, but they have a great football team this year led by Engel Martin. Really seem pretty unstoppable at this time, just beating Fairview. What are your thoughts on CPA and maybe Ensworth, some of the other teams in our area still alive?
Absolutely. I mean, CPA is a very well-coached team. Know a lot of those guys over there, and Engel does a phenomenal job, and they have some really great players. And, I look forward to maybe a CPA-Alcoa matchup in the state championship game, which would be a very exciting game to watch. And, you got the Blackman team that just beat Oakland last week, and they'll be traveling to Maryville for a semifinal game. And, the Ensworth just beat Brentwood Academy, so they'll have a week off and play MUS. So it'll be exciting to see how those games turn out. But this is about the only time through the year we get a chance to go watch as a fan, if you will, and it's exciting to get to see some of these other programs and how they go about their business.
And, of course, you guys are still getting ready for next season. It's not like, you just stopped football, that's it. You guys are going through workouts, and you still have some time where you can kind of get ready for next year.
Absolutely. We're having an exit meeting with the players right now, basically going over our thoughts on them after the season. They get to voice their opinion on how things went from our point of view. We have to take 3 weeks off from the weight room. That's a state rule, and then we'll get right back in there for that. And then, it's just right on to the next year. It never really ends. Football's kind of a year-round deal. We got some guys like Van that play basketball and do those kind of things, and we'll pick them up in the spring. So it's kind of year-round.
Sounds good. All right. He is the head football coach of the Ravenwood Raptors, Will Hester. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys can find them on Twitter as well. You guys do a good job. You're tweeting this, right? It's you.
Possibly.
Oh, he's got somebody else doing that for him. It's at Ravenwood FB, at Ravenwood FB. So you can follow them on Twitter and also on Facebook as well. Coach, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Enjoy those wings. They're good. Right now, let's take a look at some of the great sponsors, again, helping us make this wonderful debut show called Sports Source possible. Take a look.
You're watching Sports Source on WilliamsonSource.com. Presented by Dailies and Twice Daily. Win $500 gas weekly with the Coca-Cola Word of the Week. And by Jack Jacobian Jewelers in downtown Franklin. A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs. Bob Parks Realty. Franklin Skin and Laser. Push Pedal Pull in Brentwood. And Wild Wing Cafe.
All right, again, thank you for all the great sponsors. Again, we are live at Wild Wing Cafe here. We got a nice crowd out on hand. They seem kind of quiet, though, don't they? All right, let's try it again. We got a nice crowd out here at Wild Wing Cafe. They seem kind of quiet, though. There we go. All right. Well, if anybody can pump them up, they're cheerleaders, right? And that's why we got cheerleaders on here. They are with the Franklin High School Cheer Squad, and they are nationally recognized. Incredible things that you guys have done. We've got Hallie Hurt here, one of the seniors with the Franklin High Cheer Squad, and Carolyn Legoski. Thank you so much, both of you seniors, and we've got 2 other girls over there with Amber. We're going to chat with them in just a few moments. But thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So did you have some wings?
Yes, sir, we did. They were good.
Well, there, that's Wild Wing Cafe is happy. Did you guys hear about that? Okay, they like the wings. First of all, you guys are coming off the state competition this weekend. You guys finished 3rd. I know it's a little disappointing. You always want to come first, but some incredible competition there, right?
Yes, sir. Really hard competition, and we came really prepared and we tried our hardest, but we know the outcome was not what we expected, so we're going to do that, and we're just going to use it for motivation for nationals to make us do better.
There you go. I know you're on your way to the Nationals, too, in Orlando. We'll talk about that in a second. But Caroline, I mean, when Hallie says tough competition, how different are all the different routines that these different schools do?
What is John saying?
I mean, you have different skills within every team, and so it's kind of hard to, like, they're not always going to be the same just because the skill is different. But, I mean, some aspects are similar, some aspects are different. It's just, like, what your skill level is, I guess. So it was tough, but we have a really good routine, and we're ready to fix the changes and just make it better.
Yeah, I know you have a great head coach, Jessica Clark, who was invited to come, but she couldn't come. She just had a baby, so congratulations to her. By the way, she is my son's 3rd grade teacher, so hi, Miss Clark. But she's been fantastic for you guys, I know. How much do you guys work on different routines, and how much do you work on if you go to a competition, you see something you like that somebody else is doing, do you pick that up?
Well, we practice 3 to 4 times a week for 2 hours with the same routine that we're going to use at competition. But prior to that, we work on all the different skills and then eventually work to put them all together. But if we do see a routine that we like, we'll usually take some of those ideas but not use the exact same ideas. Like, our coach is really good about having ideas and then changing them to make them more unique for us. And so that's usually how we get our routines together. So.
And you're heading to the Nationals, as you mentioned, in Orlando. This is the UCA, right? Universal Cheerleading Association Championships. Is it nerve-wracking, I mean, when you go down there?
Yeah, it's really nerve-wracking. You have teams from all over the country. I mean, we compete against a team from Hawaii, so, I mean, that's like the opposite end from us. So it's really, there's like hundreds of teams, and you see them everywhere, and you see teams that you've seen before and then new ones, and it's kind of like, it's just a lot. It's really overwhelming to just see so many people and just know that you're competing against a lot of them, so yeah.
All right, well, we'll continue our conversation here in just a second, but right now let's go to a couple of your teammates over there, and let's toss it over to Amby. Sorry, that's your new nickname, Amby.
I'll take it.
Amber Pennycuff, who used to be a cheerleader yourself,
yes.
right? Yeah,
12
so you
years.
know what these girls go through.
I do, and they are athletes, Nick.
Yes, I totally
Cheerleading
believe
is a
that.
sport.
They are athletes.
It is. All right, so we have Kristen and Isabel here. What does it feel like to go to Nationals?
It's like a really exciting moment because you get to perform what you've been working for all year, in front of everybody that's been waiting to see your competition.
It's an honor to go every year. It's a tradition, so we take pride and joy of going every year.
How long have you guys been cheering for?
I've been cheering for 8 years.
Yes.
A little over 6 years.
And what's your favorite, basketball or football? Or do you guys do both?
We just cheer football.
Yes, just football for both of us.
Well, thank you guys, and back to you, Nick.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just chatting here. Thank you. And by the way, these cheerleaders, Franklin High School cheerleaders, are going to do a little cheer for all of us here in the restaurant, which is coming up in just a few minutes. We talk about, cheerleading is a sport. And I'm sure you guys hear it sometimes. People think you get out there, you wear your uniforms, you put the ribbon in your hair, you go out there and you cheer, and then you go home. Not the case, right?
No, sir. We actually spend so much time at practice, and we condition over summer and Christmas break. And then we take all that hard work and we have to compete like at competitions like state and regionals and nationals. And nationals, it's like walking into a huge basketball arena with thousands of like people just staring there watching like you and expecting you to throw all these hard skills that I know for a fact they couldn't do. So it's like we have to train and we have to work really hard for what we do. We don't just go out there and we don't cheer. We are actually like true athletes that have to compete for what we love.
Yeah. So. How much practice time are we talking about, Caroline? Like how much time is dedicated to being better every day?
Well, like Hallie said, we practice 3 to 4 times a week, especially now that we're getting closer to nationals. I mean, starting in January, we practice almost every day, including weekends, Sundays, like for a couple hours a day. So it's a lot. It's a year-round sport. Like we come back from nationals and we have maybe 2 or 3 days, and then we have open practices starting up like that next week. So it's constant, and you're always doing something, and so it's a lot.
I know both of you girls are going to college next year. You're going to Ole Miss. You're going to Alabama. Are you going to cheer there as well?
I actually try out in April for Alabama, and I was at a clinic yesterday, so hopefully I make it. So, yeah.
So you didn't like my football pick when I picked Auburn over Alabama?
No.
What about you?
It's in my mind, maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
Oh, come on, go for it. Go for it. You got to be a cheerleader for the Ole Miss Rebels. They're having a great football season too.
They are, yeah.
Finally, let's talk about the shoe drive. I know you guys it's really important you guys are involved in the community. When I was talking to Coach Clark, she was like, yeah, we want our girls to do well in competitions, but it's not always about being first, second, third. It's being involved in the community. And you guys recently did a shoe drive that we did a story on Williams and Source. How did that shoe drive go? And tell me who you were doing it for.
We just ended the shoe drive right as Thanksgiving break ended, so this past Friday. We collected all the shoes, and the parents counted, and we raised over 300 pairs of shoes, and our goal was nothing like that. We were just thinking 100 pairs of shoes, but luckily we raised over 300 pair, and we just sent them to Graceworks Ministry, and we're so glad because giving back to the community is awesome, but not only did we do that, we did it even more than we hoped we would have, and we're really proud of and we're really thankful for everyone who donated. So.
Fantastic. Congratulations, raising 300 pairs of shoes, all for a great cause. Thank you so much. Great job with that. Well, good luck at the Nationals. We'll be watching, see how you guys do. You guys ready to do a little cheer for us? Get this crowd fired. This crowd is quiet, okay? So your job is to get them all fired up. You ready? All right, why don't you join your other friends over there, your classmates, as we wrap up the show here at Wild Wing Cafe. These are the nationally recognized Franklin High School cheerleaders just coming off the state competition. They finished third there, and they will be going to the Nationals in Orlando, Florida. You girls ready? All right, go for it.
Franklin, F-R-A-N-K-L-I-N, F-R-A-N-K-L-I-N, F-R-A-N-K-L-I-N. Let's win.
Woo! All right, how about a big round of applause for the Franklin High School cheerleaders? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good luck to you guys. All right, thanks for being here. All right, well, that wraps up our show here, our very first show, Sports Source.
So exciting.
How do you think it went?
I think it went pretty well. What do you think?
I thought it was great. I know you're going to be busy this week.
Mm-hmm.
You've got CPA that you've been covering pretty much all season long. They're undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
You go to all the high school football games. You see these teams up close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on CPA, and can they get all the way to the end?
I knew it was going to be a close game on Friday, but I really feel like they're going to go all the way. They're dominant on the field, awesome coaching. So really feel like they can make it to the state championship.
Yeah. And what do you think about my pick of Auburn beating Alabama?
I love that pick. I'm a Tennessee girl through and through. So
yeah, Amber was pretty bummed about the whole Tennessee Vanderbilt game.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much fun.
It probably wasn't the best weekend for my Tennessee football.
Yeah, I know it was tough, but you got to hand it to Vanderbilt. They played a great game, and they are 7-4. They're definitely going bowling. And James Franklin, as Brad Hopkins said, really has that program in the right direction, and he's going to be lured by a lot of schools out there, and it's going to be interesting to see if James Franklin stays at Vanderbilt or if he decides to kind of see what else is out there.
A much deserving team for a much deserving win, I feel like. Definitely.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, we have had a blast here at Wild Wing Cafe in Cool Springs. We will be back here next Monday from 12 to 1.
come on out here. Again, as I said, enjoy some great wings and get involved in the conversation. As you see, the bar is pretty much gone. Wait a minute, we're supposed to have some wings for us. Wait, I haven't had a chance to have any.
I probably
wings.
need a protein shake anyways.
Right.
Let's fix it.
Well, we'll try to grab a few that are left, but it's an all-you-can-eat wing bar, $10.99, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2, and we will be here every Monday for the next 3 Mondays at least. We'll take a little break at Christmas, but we'll be out here live broadcasting on WilliamsonSource.com. We want to thank Brad Hopkins for being here. We want to thank Coach Will Hester and the Ravenwood football players for being out here, and of course the Franklin High School cheerleaders as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Source. For Amber Pennycuff, I'm Nick Paranjape. We will see you next Monday.
See you next
Bye-bye.
Monday.
Thank you for watching Sports Source on WilliamsonSource.com. Live from Wild Wing Cafe in Cool Springs. Presented by Dailies and Twice Daily. Win $500 gas weekly with the Coca-Cola Word of the Week. And by Jack Jacobian Jewelers in downtown Franklin. A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs. Bob Parks Realty. Franklin Skin and Laser. Push Pedal Pull in Brentwood. And Wild Wing Cafe. Sports Source is a production of WilliamsonSource.com, hosted by Nick Paranjape and WilliamsonSource.com sports editor Amber Pennycuff. Follow high school sports action plus Vandy, Vols, SEC, Titans, Preds, and more every day at WilliamsonSource.com. On Facebook at Williamson Source and on Twitter at WilliamsonSRC. Thanks again for watching Sports Source. This is WilliamsonSource.com.